So the researcher is now ready to present his study entitled 5 is Teaching and Learning Model for a 21st Century Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics STEM for the program in General Chemistry 1. So I am Dr. Russel Soltura from the Department of Education, Quezon Province. So 5 is Learning Model was actually anchored within the constructivist approach in which the learners will create new knowledge from the basic concepts through several experiences within the context of General Chemistry 1 and consists of 5 major stages. We have engage, elaborate, explore, explain, and evaluate, in which the students will manipulate several objects so that they can determine the concept of the said topic for General Chemistry 1. So it consists of the following data gathering procedure, instrumentation, statistical treatment, findings, and conclusion. So for the objective, first objective, to determine the topics in General Chemistry 1 that are difficult for senior high school students to learn. So the researchers used the Likert scale in which it consists of 4 levels with the respective weights. So the instrument that was used was the questionnaire on the list of difficult topics. Hence, weighted mean was used. For the major findings, the teacher respondents agreed that the concepts dealing with gas stoichiometry, kinetic molecular theory, as well as quantum mechanical description of the atom and its electronic structure are very difficult to learn on the part of the students. It was also revealed that the science teacher respondents perceived mole concept, calculations involving chemical formulas and equations, gas laws, electronic structure, electronic configuration, and the periodic table, as well as the periodic variation in atomic properties, are difficult. And these are the weighted mean values: 2.96, 3.20, 3.23, 2.87, 3.19, and 3.20 respectively. And for the conclusion, for the first objective, it was perceived that General Chemistry 1 includes some of the examples of difficult topics like stoichiometry, gases, and electronic structure of the atom. For the to identify the factors that make the topics in General Chemistry 1 difficult. So the researcher used questionnaire on the factors that cause difficulty in learning the perceived difficult topics in General Chemistry 1. And for the data gathering procedure, the teacher respondents identified the factor that causes such difficulty in the said subject. We use frequency as our statistical method. So for the major findings, the nature of the topic obtained the highest frequency values for the following concepts: mole concept 34, calculations involving chemical formulas and equations 39, gas stoichiometry and kinetic molecular theory 35, quantum mechanical description of the atom 34, electronic structure 24, periodic variation 30, and the periodic table as long as electronic configuration has a frequency value of 31. On the other hand, student-related rating as the factor making some general topics in Chemistry 1 difficult as shown in its highest frequency value of 30 for the topic gas laws. So for the conclusion, the nature of the topic as well as student-related factors make stoichiometry, gases, and electronic structure of the atom more difficult due to mathematical aspects, abstract nature, and lack of motivation among the learners since they cannot visualize the real application of the topics in their everyday lives that will lead to the understanding of the concepts. And this is where 5 learning model comes in. So those abstract concepts were concretized so that they can visualize the concept of the difficult topics in General Chemistry 1. For the third objective, to develop an instructional material integrated with 5 learning model that will enhance the components of the STEM curriculum and instruction. So for the data gathering procedure, the achievement tests were administered by the G12 students for pilot testing as their pre-test and post-test before and after the utilization of the 5 learning model, instructional model. The content of the material consists of the identified difficult topics in the said subject. The identified causes of such difficulty were addressed in the said material. So it includes the following materials. We have some reference materials like books, existing learning modules, and we have other references like Curriculum Guide for Senior High School STEM Curriculum prescribed by DepEd, Achievement Test, and we use t-test for dependent samples. So for the major findings, the 5 learning model in enhancing the components of 21st century STEM curriculum and instruction was developed. The topics include the materials are those perceived difficult topics such as stoichiometry, gases, and the electronic structure of atoms. And for the conclusion, the developed 5 learning model instructional material in General Chemistry 1 is ready for adoption. The fourth one, to find out the significant difference between the profile of the control and experimental groups in terms of pretest scores and general average for grade 11. So this was used in order to determine if there is no differential selection among the participants to avoid biases. So for the instrumentations, the researcher used the achievement test and t-test for dependent samples was used after the scores in the pretest were recorded. The student respondents' grade 11 general average were also gathered through the use of Form 5, which is the promotion and level of proficiency. So the overall mean values of experimental and control group in terms of grade 11 average are 90.64 and 90.43. On the other hand, 85.36 and 83.66 are the overall mean values for the control and experimental groups. So, in other words, the overall computed t-values of 0.45 and 0.92 are less than the tabular value of 1.96 at 0.05 level of significance. It means that there is no significant difference between the two groups in terms of general average in grade 11 and their pretest score. It means that they are exactly the same before the conduct of the study. So there is no differential selection. So for number 5, to ascertain if there is a significant difference between the post-test scores of the students in the control and experimental groups after using the said 5 learning model instructional material. So achievement test was used as our main instrument, and for the data gathering procedure, post-test scores were recorded from each group after the utilization of the said learning material, and t-test for independent sample was used. So for the findings, there emerged the mean difference of 16.86 between the post-test score and the experimental group. The computed t-value of 10.58 is greater than the tabular value of 1.96 at 0.05 level of significance, which means that there is a significant difference between the experimental and control group in terms of post-test scores. So for the conclusion, it means that the instructional model for 5E is a valid and effective tool in teaching General Chemistry 1. For the last objective, to evaluate the level of acceptability of the said 5 learning model, instructional material as perceived by the student respondents in terms of learning objectives, learning activities, accuracy, clarity, appeal, and usability. So the instrument that was used was the questionnaire on the level of acceptability, and the students' respondents were assessed and evaluated through the use of the said instrument, and the weighted mean was used. So for the major findings, in terms of learning objectives, learning activities, clarity, accuracy, appeal to the target users, and the usability, they have a weighted mean values of 3.54, 3.55, 3.46, 3.51, 3.44, and 3.52. And these values will fall under the strongly agree descriptive rating. It means that the developed 5 learning model, instructional material in enhancing the components of the 21st century STEM curriculum is commendable for use. And that is the end of my presentation dealing with the study 5 teaching and learning model for the 21st century STEM curriculum for the program in General Chemistry 1.